Welcome to the Ryan Crossley Show. It's good to be with you today, and we are getting started here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being with us. We're going to talk a little bit about the news and different things that are going on for the next hour. I got a great announcement to make also, and we're just going to be talking about what's going on in this world. So, welcome to the Ryan Crossley Show. Ryan Crossley here with you. Hopefully, everybody's starting to connect, and we're just making sure you get on here on Facebook Live and on YouTube. So, please start connecting, and we're going to get talking about what's going on. It is good to be with you another Wednesday here. In sunny, very nice South Florida, by the way. The weather today is the reason why people come down here and stay here. If you really want to know what Florida's like, come down here in the summer and then see if you want to still be here. But if you come now, you're going to think it's just beautiful and stays like this all the time. So enjoy the weather while you can, because it is going to get hot pretty soon, but very nice and breezy today. So I'm very, very thankful. So thank you for all those that are connecting to the Ryan Crossley Show. We have a good show for you today. Going to talk about where we're really at, especially when it's concerning the very fast move towards socialistic, dictatorial, totalitarian type of governments. So let's talk about it. Let's get right into it. And the first thing that I want to talk about is our neighbors to the north are, I think people are very mistaken when they think somehow that Canada is some lighthouse of democracy and freedom. Sometimes Canada is touted by those that would like to try and paint a picture. It's touted as just so perfect and so great. And I have nothing against Canada or Canadians, please, if you're listening. But it is we are finding out more than ever, it is an extremely socialist system. And we're now finding out that Mr. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is more of a dictator than he is a prime minister. If you were not paying attention over the last few weeks, and especially the last couple days, we have had a phenomenon, and that is that the truckers, the Freedom Convoy in Canada, specifically kind of the concentration has been in Ottawa, the bridge connection between Canada and Michigan. And they've been there for approximately 3 weeks, and they've been demonstrating peacefully. Now, I'm not going to do this today, but yesterday I showed a montage of about 8 minutes of the 2020 summer protests. You remember that? Remember 2020? Those peaceful protests? The newscasters were falling all over themselves. It was really ridiculous, but they were falling all over themselves, saying these are mostly peaceful protests with buildings burning in the background. As you can see, most of this protest is peaceful. People running in and out of the buildings, smashing windows, running over people, taking advantage of the chaos to literally just kill officers. It was insane. It was pandemonium all across the United States. Not only that, there's certain cities, folks, that have been completely destroyed and that will never recover. My birthplace of Portland, Oregon, it was a beautiful city. It was a nice place to go. Now it's destroyed. I was speaking with my sister just yesterday who lives in Oregon City, and she was talking about just the political climate and the depression and the heaviness that is out there. That city is never going to recover from what has happened. They destroyed it. They destroyed the feeling of downtown Portland. They destroyed the buildings. They defaced everything. I mean, it was smashing windows, burning things, graffiti all over the place. It's total vandalism. Places like Seattle, Minneapolis, these are towns that will never be the same. They have been forever marked by the 2020 protests. I distinctly remember huge clashes between people and police officers. Police officers just trying to stand there, because these are peaceful protesters, and bottles being thrown at them. They're getting injured and all of that. And so I just yesterday I showed a montage of that. I don't have to remind you all. We were all glued to the television sets or whatever, the internet, watching what was going on, hoping that it wouldn't happen in our city. I remember I was worried about Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Thank God for the police officers down here and the backing that they have from our local government and our state government through Governor DeSantis. They were able to, like, in 3 days, they squashed it. Thank God it never got out of hand down here, because who knows what would have become of Miami or Fort Lauderdale area where we live. But it was chaos. And those people were bad people. Bad people. They were bad people. There's no other way to say it. There is no justification ever for burning down a business. We're talking about people that lost their life savings. I remember specifically watching an interview of an African-American man and wife who had just poured all of their life savings into a business, and during the riots, people had burned up their entire business, and they lost all their savings that they had put into that. That's the kind of stuff that was going on in the summer of 2020. Now, the truckers, the Freedom Convoy, they're not burning up buildings. They're not setting fire to anything. They are just parked. They have been parked and protesting that way, saying, hey, we are against all of this forced mandates on us. We're against forced mask mandates or vaccine mandates. We want our freedom back. We want to get back to normal. In fact, a lot of them have even said they're not even doing it for themselves. Some of these men are in their late 50s, early 60s, looking towards retirement pretty soon, men and women. And they're saying, we're not even doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for our kids. We're doing it for the future. If I'm not mistaken, they said that a really good percentage of those that are down there on a daily basis or have been down there on a daily basis have been children. So it's not an atmosphere of violence. It's not an atmosphere of hurling things at cops or running over people with their 18-wheelers. That's not what they're doing. They've just been there, okay? And they've blocked, yes, it's been a blockade, but they've used the power that is within them to be able to get a voice, have a voice for what they feel and what they believe. And more power to them for that. That's a peaceful protest, not... And don't come at me with, well, they're blocking the road. Well, let's talk about the summer in 2020. All of the businesses that lost all kinds of money, all of the things that were blocked and closed and shut down. And so don't even try to say, well, they are just, because they're trying to label them as almost like domestic terrorists, But here's what's amazing. Mr. Trudeau used just recently, I think 2 days ago now, he invoked the Emergencies Act. Okay, now the Emergencies Act was implemented in the 1980s in Canada, and it really replaced an act which was to only be used basically in wartime. Okay, it gives the president or the prime minister, it gives him the power to kind of, throw his muscles around and make some decisions unilaterally, to where it's just him with his cabinet, which obviously is going to be for him. And it's so that he can respond in a warlike situation. And so a few days ago, he invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations. That's what he told Parliament on Monday afternoon. This is a never before used emergency power. Isn't it amazing how many never before used powers are now being used? In these last couple of years, countries have completely trampled on whatever their founding documents are, and they're just doing whatever they want to advance their agenda. That's what these groups are doing. So after a couple weeks of this freedom convoy, he invokes the Emergencies Act. The truckers are just simply demanding an end to all coronavirus restrictions, which, by the way, I'm going to pause here and say, by the way, there should be an end to all coronavirus restrictions, and I'll tell you why. Number one, the science that supposedly was so ironclad, we are finding out day after day. It's not a surprise to me. Honestly, I felt it and knew it from the beginning. Because you could tell what this was all about. But the science is proving over and over and over again that it was the things that were imposed on us through mandates and lockdowns and all that. Think, who was it? John Hopkins came out with a study of how ineffective the lockdowns were, that they basically didn't do anything. Studies of how ineffective the masking all is. And let's not even talk about vaccines because I get flagged every time I talk about them. But anybody who has a brain, all you got to do is look and see about how effective the vaccines really are as far as preventing or helping somebody not get the virus or transmit it to others. It's pretty much a it should be a non-issue because we have seen that it doesn't work the way that it was destined to work, So the science itself right now is proving that all of the knee-jerk reactions we did to destroy people's economy in the name of health didn't work. And so the truckers are just saying, okay, it's an end to it all. The hypocrisy also is ridiculous. It's like last week, right? On Sunday, we have the Super Bowl, 78,048 people in a stadium in Los Angeles, California, that still has some of the strictest rules in place for masks and vaccines, to the point to where kids are still masked in schools. But you got 78,048 people that, by the way, the tickets were an average of like $5,000 a piece. It was ridiculous. So no common person hardly is going to be able to go to that game. Interestingly enough, the head of the school board that is telling them that the kids have to wear masks, he was there at the Super Bowl maskless. All these celebrities that preach to us all the time about what we're supposed to do, we're all there maskless. And I don't care. I'm glad that they were there maskless because I believe everybody should be able to go everywhere maskless because I don't think the masks work. But that's just me. But they obviously don't think the masks work either because they're all there in the big public and all 78,000 of them, but the kids still have to go to school on Monday with masks on. So these truckers are right. They are right. And not only them, their actions are spawning actions all over the world. I think in France, there's been some unrest. Now they've tried to squash it with tear gas and all those kind of things because they were also going to do a freedom convoy. And there's been scuttlebutt that it's going to happen here in the United States too, starting in California, going to D.C. We don't know. It's just speculation, things that are heard through the grapevine. But the point is these truckers are saying, that's it. An end to all the restrictions because we know now things we didn't know before. the hypocrisy is off the charts because the people that are preaching at us don't even follow the rules that they put for us. So we are demanding an end to all coronavirus restrictions. And in fact, most of the truckers, a lot of the truckers, have been vaccinated, if that's the issue. But there's just a bunch of them that say, no, it's my body, my choice, right? That worked for abortion, doesn't work for the vaccine. My body, my choice. And so Trudeau doesn't agree with that. So he invokes the Emergencies Act, okay? Now, here's the scary thing about the Emergencies Act. It came into force in 1988, and it allows the federal government to take special temporary measures to ensure safety and security during national emergencies. Now, if there's one thing we've learned in the last couple years is what temporary means. You remember 15 days to flatten the curve? Well, here we are 2 years later. Temporary is a power grab, okay? The word temporary, temporary measures, special temporary measures, those words are code word for power grab. We're gonna grab some power and we will fight tooth and toenail to not give it back. And we're dealing with that. So special temporary measures to ensure safety and security during national emergencies. It is a temporary. I like this. Let's watch if this really becomes true, okay? It is a temporary 30-day measure started Monday. Let's see. I want to see the long-term effects. 30-day measure that comes into effect immediately when invoked. So it was invoked on Monday. So what constitutes a national emergency? They have said that seriously endangers lives. Okay, I don't think the truckers are seriously endangering lives. Health or safety of Canadians. Well, they're not doing what the BLM and Antifa and everybody did 2020. And if such proportions or nature as to exceed the capacity or authority of a province to deal with, or seriously threatens the ability of the government of Canada to preserve the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of Canada. I would just say that I think it would be a stretch to say that these guys are really violating any of that. Of course, it's uncomfortable. Of course, it's causing some problems because of the supply chain. But of course, we've been dealing with supply chain issues for a while, right? And so here's the scary part about it, though. To me, I was listening to it, and the scary part of me, the scary part about it to me was, as I was reading, one of the things that they can do, and I'm reading here, but one of the things that they can do is they can freeze bank accounts. So anybody, let's say you were sympathetic to these truckers, right? Let's say you were sympathetic to their cause and you wanted to support them with $100. They're out in the cold of Canada right now. It's not warm. 16th of February in Canada on the border right now. And if you wanted to support them, in fact, they prohibited people from bringing them gas. You saw these pictures of people bringing empty gas cans. That was symbolic. The cans were empty, but it was a type of protest on their part. But people have been prohibited from helping these people. And here's the thing: if you help these guys in any way, if you contribute any money from your account, let's say you do a Zelle transfer, Cash App, PayPal, whatever, a transfer to support them. You remember the GoFundMe? In no time at all, they had like $10 million, and then GoFundMe decided they're not going to give the money to the truckers. They probably never expected that. You know, it lets you know, and that's scary. I think Ron DeSantis was suing them to find out what they're going to do with that money, and I guess they're going to have to return it. I'd like to see how that all works out. But it's scary to know that because all of our money is online, it's digital, now, if Trudeau and the Canadian government they determined that you in any way supported these guys financially, or maybe not financially, maybe you were supporting them in a way that they didn't agree with, they can freeze your bank accounts. And all of these truckers, they have threatened them with freezing their bank accounts under the Emergency Act. Can you imagine that? I mean, that's I don't understand how we don't see how socialistic and almost communistic this is. It's off the charts. These guys are protesting as they do. I kind of actually comparatively, okay, I compared a little bit to the type of protest. Now, it was a totally different issue. It's a little bit of a comparison of apples and oranges, but if you look at what Martin Luther King Jr. did, and I highly, highly respect him, he did the walks, where they would march from one place to another. They would do sit-ins. They literally did do peaceful protests, and he ultimately paid the price of his life for what he believed in, and he accomplished one of the greatest feats of all time in a country that desperately needed it. But he did it in a way that was not dangerous to others, and it was a powerful way to get his point across. And these truckers, in a way, I mean, they're sitting there. They're not. Yeah, they're blocking a bridge, and that's their power that they have to try and get something moving because the government doesn't care. And it's obvious that the government doesn't care even with what they're doing. I mean, they're fining them. They're freezing their bank accounts. They're threatening them, obviously, with the loss of their jobs and removal of their licenses. So my point is, it's very scary when you think about they can just unilaterally say, we're declaring an Emergencies Act because you're threatening us, which they're not physically, and then we're just going to freeze your bank accounts, and then you're going to pay some consequences. And the problem with this is it's so one-sided, it's so biased, because when the other side protests or does all their things, and they did cause a lot of damage. You talk about cost. They cost a lot of people a lot of money, and still are. There's places, I know I'm comparing U.S. and Canada, but we're neighbors, okay? So I get a little nervous sometimes that these things can drift across borders. In our country right now, people can literally steal in certain cities up to $900, $950 of things right out of store, right in front of the clerks, right in front of the people, and they can't do anything about it. They can't prosecute it. When they do that, there's no consequences. They don't even prosecute them. Or some of them, even if they prosecute them, within 24 hours, they're back out on the streets. But you're going to take these men, family men, that are protesting the only way that they can, peacefully, and yeah, they're making you uncomfortable. That's their point. They're making you uncomfortable so that you'll do something. But against them, you're going to declare, basically as if it was wartime, because it's the first time it's ever been used. It replaced the War Act, actually. You're going to declare basically as though these guys are a foreign enemy. In fact, they've been almost labeled as domestic terrorists with what they're doing. So I don't know if you care or not, but I care. And the reason I care is because it just shows how far these governments are going. And we are living... Don't think for 1 second, okay, that the United States right now is that bastion of democracy that it declares itself to be. And I live here. I'm a citizen. I'm a patriot. But we have been dealing with, for 2 years now, we have been dealing with simply just things being mandated. They're mandates. I get really frustrated, and maybe you can educate me if I'm wrong, but I get really frustrated when vocabulary is used incorrectly, okay? For example, I have heard so many people say, especially when I'm on flights, okay? When I'm on flights, they'll say federal law requires you to wear a mask. That is actually inaccurate. It's a mandate, so I do have to obey it because there's consequences if I don't. And so I obey it so that I can be on that flight. And because I really don't have a choice on a flight. Now, with the vaccine, if they start requiring vaccines for domestic travel, I love y'all, but I will not be traveling by plane because I stand with Novak Djokovic. I don't know if you've seen him, but what a powerful statement he made. He did an interview the other day, and they asked him whether he was willing to forego titles, tennis titles, for what he believed in. This is the winner of 20 Grand Slams. He's probably number one in the world. And he said, yes, I am. And they said, well, what if it means you can't go to Wimbledon? Yes, I'm willing to not go to Wimbledon. What if it means that you can't go to the French Open? Yes, I'm willing to forego going to the French Open. What a powerful thing. And there's an interview that he did that you ought to go watch. But if you watch what he's saying the same thing that I've always said. He's not anti-vaccine. He believes that everybody should have a choice. And that's what I believe. I believe that everybody should have a choice. So that's what freedom is all about. So when they say federal law says, that's inaccurate because a law has to go through processes. A bill has to be presented. It gets put on the floor. It gets debated. It gets voted on. It goes from the lower house to the upper house. Eventually makes it to the president's desk. He either approves or vetoes. There's an entire process for something to become federal law. And so what's going on is they're changing the vocabulary to where mandates from any administration, emergency acts, they're using it to completely bypass constitutional process. They're using it to completely bypass the legislative process and impose upon people whatever they want to impose. So don't tell me it's a law. It is a mandate, okay? And that's why you're going to get some protests and some pushback. But it's not law. So say it's a mandate, and that's going to be more accurate. But I think that we need to be aware that we are living in a day where they just declare an emergency act. This is, unforeseen circumstances. All the things that have been said in the last couple of years to just push forward this massive control. But I was really, really perturbed when I saw that they were going to literally freeze these people's bank accounts and anybody who helped them. So imagine that happening in the United States. Imagine all of a sudden they don't like what you're saying or what you're supporting. They declare you as an offender, as a domestic problem. So what do? They just freeze your bank accounts. All our money is digital. Have you ever tried to use your debit card somewhere and you couldn't because the bank thought it was fraud, so they froze it? Imagine that being perpetual. Because now you can call and you can say, hey, I was trying to make a purchase here. Y'all blocked the card. Oh, yeah, miss, so-and-so are you trying? Yes. And you get it cleared and you can go ahead. But imagine if your card was perpetually frozen. Imagine if your bank accounts were perpetually frozen to where you can never have access to any of that again. We're just a click of a button away from that. I don't know if society understands that or not. There is something so scary, and I'm sorry I'm being a little bit apocalyptic with what I'm going to say, but there is something so scary as we continually move away from cash and to where all our money is digital. Zelle, Cash App, cryptocurrencies, even when it comes to transfers from bank accounts, you're basically transferring numbers. There's no transfer of actual cash. You're just transferring numbers from one bank account to another. I have several. I have a savings in the checking account, and so I can go online and I can just transfer. I can transfer $500 from my checking to my savings. Well, they didn't literally take out $500 cash out of somewhere and put it in another area. $500. No, it's just numbers. They're just switching numbers from one place to another. And the scary thing about moving away from cash, and I kind of saw, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but during the height of the pandemic, and I've seen it even now, you would go into a store and you would see a sign that would say that they were short on change or no coins available, that all of a sudden, I never quite understood, and I did not understand at all. I still to this day don't understand at all what the issue was with all of a sudden there's no coins. What on earth did that have to do with the pandemic or COVID? Anytime I asked for coins, they had them. Anytime that, I mean, if you need coins, I'm pretty sure every house in America has a jar full of coins somewhere. If you need a revival of coins. And I still never got a clear answer as to why there was this change shortage or coin shortage. I personally, and this is just me speculating, I personally feel like it was a preparatory thing. I feel like it was a conditioning thing to where people, the whole cash, the whole touchless thing, money carries a lot of germs, and the whole cashless thing or touchless thing, that's heading somewhere, folks. And where that's heading is the elimination of cash. They want to eliminate cash. They want to eliminate the possibility of you buying or purchasing with cash. There's literally places today where you cannot buy with cash. It has to be electronic. It has to be credit card, debit card, Apple Pay, things like that. And I get really nervous when we continually drift away from cash, because then all it takes is for the Prime Minister of Canada to say, under the Emergencies Act, we don't like what you're doing. You're a domestic terrorist. You're messing everything up. And so we're just going to freeze your account just like that. And if we live in a cashless society and everything's got to be paid digitally, you cannot buy or sell. You can't do anything. And that's taking us, and I know I'm being apocalyptic, like I said, that's taking us to what the book of Revelation talks about, to where they were not able to buy or sell without the mark. It's the only way that can happen is if all currencies are digital, it's all electronic. And it's scary, very scary, because with just a click of a button, they can freeze you out and you have no money and you have no way to function in this world. So these kind of things, when you see this happen, like what's going on in Canada, they should be little red flags, little alarms that pop up in your head and say, hey, this is bad news. This is not a good deal. I mean, just because you don't agree, and that's a thing. I mean, listen to me. Just because you don't agree with my stance on something, just because you don't agree with the way that I'm protesting something, you're going to freeze me out of my money. I would be very interested to see if they froze, if they would freeze out anybody's money that, was part of violent protests or things of that nature, or even people that are very, that are terrorists. I mean, do they freeze their money out? So it's just very, very scary when you see that kind of thing happen, because all it takes is for them to determine that because you are not on the same page as they are, you are a threat, and it's not, they have to freeze you out because you are a danger to society. And it just blows my mind that that's what is going on in Canada, and don't think for 1 second that it couldn't happen here. Now, there's going to be even, and I'll tell you why. We have a person in our church that is a trucker. They sent me a message and they said, hey, you need to just be aware, stock up on food if you can, because the same type of freedom convoy is supposed to start on such and such a date here in the United States. And I do know, I was paying attention, I don't know if you were, but some of them were planning on doing that in the Super Bowl to make their voice heard. And agents from the federal government were sent out to squelch that. So amazing, right? Amazing how they will send out federal agents to squelch a protest that is really peaceful and that is not damaging to society. But they won't do a thing. No federal agents were sent out. Not even the National Guard was sent out. No military was sent out when these people were burning up cities. The hypocrisy is off the charts. The bias is obvious. And you need to know what side you're on. And that's why this year is a very important year. This is election year. We're already in the middle of February, folks. We're already in the middle of February. And you've got to understand that this November election could possibly be. I know it's not a presidential election. I wish it was, but this November election could possibly be one of the most important elections of our country's history, because we cannot. Listen to me now. We cannot survive. We're already going to have to survive from here to November. We cannot survive another 3 full years of what's going on right now. I was just listening to somebody this morning. Do you realize that in 7 months, President Biden has lost two embassies overseas? I think during Obama's presidency, we lost one in 8 years. And during Trump's, we didn't lose any. Imagine that. But under Biden's presidency, in 7 months, we've lost two embassies. One in Kabul, and one now in Ukraine. Everybody's having to leave the embassy in Ukraine. We cannot survive, folks, another 3 years of this. The economy, our weakness on the world stage. Vladimir Putin smells blood in the water. He knows. I mean, President Biden, I'm sorry, he can't hardly get through a press conference without bumbling. Sometimes, I don't know if you do or not, but I'm listening like really close, and sometimes I'm like, I don't even think that was English. It's just gibberish. He can't get through it without reading. There's nothing he can say off the cuff without getting mad at a reporter and cussing at them. He will not take questions on inflation. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but just recently, I think yesterday, they were trying to ask him a question on inflation. He just walked away. You're the stinking president of the United States of America. Give some answers, talk to the people. I will say something, whether you liked it or not, Trump was constantly in front of the cameras telling everybody what was going on. I mean, he would stop if he was going out to the helicopter or Air Force One, or he would stop and talk to reporters, and they knew it. They would ask questions, and he would answer them, whether they liked the answers or not. It was by far the most transparent presidency that we have ever seen, and especially compared to this one, where the president just continually walks away from the pulpit. I call it his pulpit because he's preaching something I don't like. But he continually walks away from the podium. Hey, Mr. President, what are you going to do about inflation? And he turns around and tells them that's a stupid question, or you're a stupid person, or he just walks away. We cannot, folks, we cannot have 3 more years of that and be even competitive in this world. We're selling out to China more and more. They are becoming the world superpower. Elon Musk himself said you need to be ready for a world where China's economic power is 3 times that of the United States. and that's where we're headed. And I agree with you, Manny. Kamala is no better. She is no better at all. The only thing, I mean, think about, just think about it, Manny. Manny's a faithful listener, and also Michael, you're on, and I always love Michelle Aquino. They're always such faithful listeners. But, here's the horrible progression. If Biden's not president, then it goes to Kamala. If Kamala's not president, it goes to Nancy Pelosi. Oh, my goodness. Can it get any worse? So what we need is, in November, we need a turnaround. In November, we really need to take the House, and we need to take the Senate. It's the only way to bring some checks and balances. And don't vote in rhinos. Don't vote in people like Mitt Romney, who are so stinking wishy-washy. They side with the left, and then when the Republicans have to really need somebody to come up to bat in a critical situation, they always go the wrong way. We don't need people like that. We need people that are going to be faithful to the cause of restoring dignity, morality, truth, right, Constitution to the United States. That's what we need. Now, I am going to say this, if you're here in Florida and you want to go this Saturday, there's something called the Freedom Tour. You can find it. It's AmericanFreedomTour.com, AmericanFreedomTour.com. I'm going to repeat that again. You can go to AmericanFreedomTour.com, and what you will see there is it's a tour going around trying to win back America. This Saturday, February 19th, from 8:15 a.m. to 5 p.m., they will be in Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so if you want to go, you can. There are literally. There's satellite seating, which is in an overflow room that's as low as $9. General admission's like $45. You can go to the website, okay? But you can go and check. There's different things available. Some of it's almost sold out. Some of it's buy one, get one free. But there is, you can register there, AmericanFreedomTour.com. If you are in the Fort Lauderdale area, and you want to help, you want to be a helper, that I got a message today. The president of the American Freedom Tour contacted us. They're looking for volunteers to help. So if you are in the area and you are available on Saturday, just kind of contact me and let me know. I'm going to be getting some more information later on today as to how you can get in direct contact there to be able to volunteer and help. And this is what we need to do. We need to get involved in this kind of thing. If the Republicans are able to take back the House and the Senate, and people are, let me just be clear about something, okay? People are maybe shocked that as a pastor I'll be that vocal about political parties. But here's my point of view on it, okay? And I'm not ostracizing anybody, nor do I want to disconnect anybody from the ultimate thing that we all need, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ. But I have no problem saying that I have to look at both parties and what they represent. Neither one of them is going to represent me 100%, okay? None of them are going to represent me 100%. There are things that, I'll give you a perfect example. President Trump, I loved him in some ways, but there's other things about him that I was not in agreement with as a Christian, morally, things that he would say. But I didn't choose President Trump to be my pastor. We're not voting for a pastor. We're not voting for a Sunday school teacher. We're voting for a president. And so when you look at who you're voting for, as a Christian, what you're supposed to do, none of them, listen to me, folks, no candidate is ever going to represent Christianity 100%. It's just not going to happen. Either side is going to represent different things for you. So what you have to do is evaluate the issues that they stand for. and what is the closest to what you stand for and what is best for the country. So as a Christian, I look at issues, for example, like abortion. Which party is closest to my stance on abortion as a Christian? Well, I don't believe abortion is right. So I am going to look at a party that will mostly support my point of view. It's not even going to be 100%. I know that. When it comes to different moral issues, I look at that. When it comes to economical issues, liberties. So, for example, I look at the Constitution of the United States, and I look at who's taking away most of our liberties, who's fighting for our liberties, and through that, I make a decision. So you have to understand that you have to make choices, and November is going to be very important. We have to make choices. Nobody's going to be 100% what you want them to be, but you need to study the issues, then study the person, and see where they stand on the issues, because that's going to help our country the most. Never, from the founding fathers, nobody's going to represent you 100%. But you got to find the one that represents you the most. And as Christians, I'll just be honest with you. I mean, maybe it's a point of contention with some, but as Christians, I think it's really clear. It should be pretty clear what represents Christian values the most, and that's the way that we should be voting, because hopefully that will make it easier for the church to continue to preach the gospel. That's one thing that we have really felt in these last couple of years, like we never felt before, is the attack on churches, the attack on religious freedom and religious liberty. It's been a battle, and I don't know that we've won the battle. I think that we gave up a lot of territory. We gave up a lot of land, if I can put it that way. A lot of churches were way too complacent, way too easy to give up their rights and their liberty. So I personally believe that it's important for as long as we can. Now listen, the New Testament church, they preached continually under a situation of persecution, and they were never as free as we have been. Okay, they were in prison just for preaching the name of Jesus. But we're not going to be too far away from that if we keep going the way we're going. Jesus is going to be offensive to everybody. Jesus is already offensive to a lot of people here in the United States. And the more and more that this agenda advances, the more and more that the voices will feel powerful enough to rise up against us. So we need to look and vote for people. We do need to vote, folks. We need to vote for people that are going to represent us as best as possible. Probably one of the greatest failures of the church in this modern era is not getting out and being a voice when they should be. I've heard it said over and over again that that if all of the Christians would get out and vote, there's like 78 million of them, then they would always, and they were kind of on the same page, whoever they wanted as a candidate, that's who would be president. The main problem is they don't get out and vote. We're just too complacent. We're like ostriches with our head in the sand. You can't talk about politics. You can't talk about these things because it's going to alienate somebody or isolate somebody. But personally, I talk about them because I want to maintain our freedoms as long as we can. It's been a continual deterioration of freedom from the founding of our nation till now. We have never gained more freedom as a nation. Well, let me take that back. I'll walk that back a little bit. Yes, we have gained freedom. We've rectified some things. The bloodiest war we ever fought was the Civil War. It needed to be fought for the reason it needed to be fought, because nobody should be a slave in this country. I'm very thankful that men gave their lives for that. And so, yes, I guess we have advanced in some areas in freedom. But according to what was given to us at the beginning and where we're at now. We are kind of in a downhill loss of one freedom after another. And we have to realize that and fight for our freedom as much as we can so that in the time that is left, we can preach the gospel with as few problems as possible. Although I will, this is going to sound like a total contradiction, but I will say one of the things that we do know in the Word of God is that when there was persecution, there was tremendous revival. And if that's what it takes, I don't know, but I want revival. I do feel like there are people, I hope there are people that are finally realizing. I mean, all you've got to do is see what the elites do and then what they're telling you to do. It's like it's like Nancy Pelosi and this stock trading thing. It's so hypocritical. You know, she's basically got, I mean, she said she's going to run one more term, but she's at the end, okay? She's at the end. And now at the end, after she's made her tens of millions of dollars, you know how much information a senator has and how much power, especially the Speaker of the House, how much power the Speaker of the House wields, and especially because the House controls the money and budgets and all that. You know how much inside information she has to be able to make trades, and her husband has become very rich doing that. You know how much information she has that if you had, I have a sister that works at a bank where they trade stocks for people. They do it, you know, they're brokers. They do it for people. They're not allowed. My sister's not allowed to trade because she might have some information based on what somebody else is trading. She's not allowed. You know, she's just a peon. She's a nobody. But senators, Speaker of the House, that moves the money, they are able to trade freely. And now, you know, now because she's on her way out, you know, she's open to the idea. Don't believe it, folks. They just want to control, and it's something that the rules don't apply to them, that they want to apply to you. Man, time flew by. It's already 9:54. But we need to really. It's February, but it's going to ramp up pretty quick. We need to get to these types of rallies. You need to start looking for who you're going to vote for. You need to make sure that that you get out to vote when these elections come around. We need to take back the House. We need to take back the Senate. It's really the only way. We can't elect a president for another 3 years. So it's really the only way that we're going to be able to keep some checks and balances. It's because, like Manny was saying, okay, so you impeach Biden, now you're stuck with Kamala, who is MIA. Have you ever seen the vice president's more MIA, doesn't have a clue what she's talking about than Kamala? I haven't. It's unbelievable. Then if something happens with her, you're with Pelosi. So it's the only way we're going to get some checks and balances back in Washington is by taking the House and taking the Senate. So we need to do that. So I do want to announce one more time, February 19th, this Saturday, 8:15. I think it's at Fort Lauderdale Convention Center, American Freedom Tour. Go to their website, AmericanFreedomTour.com, AmericanFreedomTour.com, and you can get tickets there. If you want to volunteer, if you're down here in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area, and you want to volunteer, I will try and find out. Maybe you can message me privately. I'm going to get some more information. They're looking for about 25 volunteers to help, and so we're gonna see how we can get you more information and be able to help out there and be a part of this. But it's been good to be on the Ryan Crossley Show one more time with you. God bless you. We're glad that we can be a voice. This is why I'm doing this. I'm trying to be a voice in this time of chaos. But yeah, we need to be aware. I opened up with that the deal about the Emergencies Act in Canada. It scares me to death that they could just freeze all your money just like that, just because they think that you're a threat. And we're not far from that here in the United States. All it takes is for them to say, hey, these people are a threat because they're saying this. Boom, click of a button. Cashless society, you're stuck. There's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. So we need to fight for our freedoms, make sure that for as long as we can hold this thing together and fight for our country, fight for what we believe. I believe that that's a very, very important thing. God bless you. Thank you one more time for being connected to the Ryan Crossley Show. We are so thankful for every one of you that gets on the show. Subscribe to it. I know we are starting to try and build up listeners. Share it with somebody. Let them hear it. Hey, I love seeing your comments. I read through them as we're talking, and later on, I try and reflect on them also. So God bless you. God bless America. We will see you next Wednesday right here on the Ryan Crossley Show. Keep listening to great music right here and all the other shows that we have throughout the week. We're just trying to be a voice in this wilderness that we live in. And overall, we want to exalt the name of Jesus. God bless you. God bless the USA. We'll see you next week.